I am making this video to respond to claims by Zoltanus and the Pacifists that Adolf Hitler, the 1933–1945 German Führer, was an Eurasianist. Often it is claimed as such, but under scrutiny gives no pregnant meaning. Let's address each claim one by one. Hitler was not a nationalist but an imperialist and a proponent of civilizationism. This claim makes little sense. For example, Hitler didn't formulate the name Third Reich first of all. It was done by Moeller van de Broek. A national conservative, he criticized Hitler and was opposed to him. Yes, indeed, Hitler took the name and used it for his own purposes, but not to emulate the previous empires of Germany, simply to group in more conservatives that were hesitant about the party and who were fond of the previous Reich. A quote from Hitler shows his perception. On monarchical institutions and princely states here, if the value of this institution lay in the momentary person of the monarch, it would be the worst institution that can be imagined, for monarchs only in the rarest cases are the cream of wisdom and reason, or even of character, as some people like to claim. This is believed only by professional lickspittles and sneaks, but all straightforward men, and these remain the most valuable men in the state despite everything, will only feel repelled by the idea of arguing such nonsense. The Napoleonic national consciousness and the revolutions of the 1870s were more akin to Hitler's conception of nationalism, as they contained race and land, or Blut und Boden for those who are German. Hitler was a pan-European. Again, pacifist thinks Hitler was something he was not. Yes, Hitler does say in Mein Kampf that, but it is our task, and it is the mission of the National Socialist movement, to develop in our people that political mentality which will enable them to realize that the aim which they must set to themselves for the fulfillment of their future must not be some wildly enthusiastic adventure in the footsteps of Alexander the Great, but industrious labor with the German plow, for which the German sword will provide the soil. However, it's absolutely true that Hitler means that he would like to repopulate the East with Germans, not form a détente relationship with the Russians. Later in the same text, Hitler espouses that the Germany of then sought an alliance with Russia because it was advantageous for them, presumably because of the white ruling class of Russia. Now it would be disadvantageous due to the Communist Party and the racial divide between Russia and Germany. Therefore, the fact of forming an alliance with Russia would be the signal for a new war. And the result of that would be the end of Germany. Point is, any words Hitler said about uniting Europe, similar to Oswald Mosley's Europe a nation, was pure fluff to recruit foreign volunteers for the war effort. In reality, Hitler was a Germanicist, not a pan-European. Anti-Slavic policy can be shown by 1. General Plan Ost, General Plan East. This was the overarching plan for the colonization and exploitation of Eastern Europe, involving displacement, forced labor, and extermination of Slavic populations. 2. Reichserhofgesetz. This law aimed to create a hereditary peasant class in the conquered eastern territories by confiscating land from Slavic farmers and redistributing it to German settlers. 4. Heimansreich. This policy encouraged the relocation of ethnic Germans from other countries, often displacing local Slavic populations in the process. 5. Occupation policies. The occupation of Eastern European countries involved the suppression of local Slavic culture, the establishment of forced labor camps, and the execution of mass shootings as part of anti-Slavic measures. 6. The Hunger Plan, a deliberate strategy by the Nazi regime to intentionally starve and exploit the populations of Eastern Europe, particularly the Soviet Union, in order to provide resources for the German war effort and sustain the German population. The Hunger Plan resulted in widespread famine, suffering, and death among the Slavic populations in the targeted regions. Hitler, influenced by Hochover, was an anti-American. It is not true that Hitler was an anti-American nor anti-British. Indeed, he felt that America was decadent and a symptom of degenerate values. However, he lauds the Teutonic element of America, and blames the decay on Judaism, as well as the obvious African and other ethnicities. Hitler borrowed from Manifest Destiny in his Drang nach Osten policy. He read many cowboy novels and believed the founding fathers were of pure Germanic stock. As for the English, Hitler knew that an alliance between Britain, which harbored deep resentment to a continental European power, was next to impossible, but did not hate the British. For example, Hitler chided the Japanese when they defeated Britain in their occupation of Indonesia. He also lauded the occupation of India and said that The Life of a Bengal Lancer was one of his favorite movies. Dudgeon is not the successor of National Socialism. Often we hear in this video that Alexander Dudgeon is the fulfillment of Hochover and Hitler's views. How can this be the case? When Dudgeon criticized the colonization of the Asian territories by the British, or the fact that he believes in an independent Africa, free of Western influence. Hitler's relationship with Japan was simply for political expediency. He had this to say in Mein Kampf when thinking if Japan had any original character. But the real foundations of contemporary Japanese life are the enormous scientific and technical achievements of Europe and America, that is to say, of Aryan peoples. Only by adopting these achievements as the foundations of their own progress can the various nations of the Orient take a place in contemporary world progress. The scientific and technical achievements of Europe and America provide the basis on which the struggle for daily livelihood is carried on in the Orient. They provide the necessary arms and instruments for this struggle, and only the outer forms of these instruments have become gradually adapted to Japanese ways of life. If, from today onwards, the Aryan influence on Japan would cease, and if we suppose that Europe and America would collapse, then the present progress of Japan in science and technique might still last for a short duration, but within a few decades the inspiration would dry up, and native Japanese character would triumph, while the present civilization would become fossilized and fall back into the sleep from which it was aroused about 70 years ago by the impact of Aryan culture. Again noting that America had Aryan character and that Europe and America were the foundation of Japan's progress. Dudgeon also supports Putin, who has made it his mission to destroy any semblance of organic nationalism. Putin has continued to use the anti-Holocaust denial law and the extremism law to jail dissidents. To say that Dudgeon is the successor of Geopolitik and Machtpolitik is asinine. Dudgeon would allow European and Asian mixing in an unprecedented scale. When on the other hand Hitler would have used a strong Germanic minority to control Asia. If Hitler was not an Aryan nationalist, why would he invite Lothrop Stoddard and other American nationalists? Why would he be cordial with British imperialists and be wholly against other Asian countries' independence? He certainly was not a third worldist nor someone who would not be shy to multipolarity.